Good afternoon, my name is Liam Neild and this is the MU Review, the place where I talk all things Manchester United in the world of football, and I'm back today to actually review a victory. For the first time in 4 matches, Manchester United have come out on top, albeit against weaker League One opposition in Northampton Town. We won 3-1 in the third round of the EFL Cup, which has been rebranded for God knows how many times since I've been born and many times before I was born. But that being said, it's a competition Jose Mourinho obviously very much likes. He's won it multiple times in England. I think he's won it 3 times in like 5 or 6 Premier League campaigns, which is pretty impressive for a foreign manager, because most of them, much like Louis van Gaal, don't really take the competition that seriously. I thought it was a pretty good lineup, considering the fact that we were playing against the League One side. I was quite surprised to see Marcus Rashford not starting. I think that indicates that maybe he is now firmly in Jose Mourinho's first 11, which I think he should be for the rest of the season, but I digress a bit. We saw a few cameo appearances, or a few appearances from players who we haven't seen at all this season. I thought Sergio Romero, I think, was making his first appearance. He very much looked a bit rusty, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt there. When you're a goalkeeper more than any other position, you need to have a few games under your belt before you can really be judged as being in sharp form. So he had a bit of a shaky performance, but ultimately only let in the 1 goal and it was a penalty, so I'll give him that. Across the back line, I thought Timothy Fosu-Mensah did a shift at right back. He wasn't spectacular, but he almost scored a goal with an absolutely thunderous header, and I do think his future lies in the holding midfield position, or even as a box-to-box midfielder, so I don't think we should judge him too harshly on his performances at right back, because he's definitely just trying to fight his way into the team, and all credit to him for managing to do that. At centre-back, I thought Chris Smalling was good once again. It's good to see him getting his match sharpness back up. I do think he is going to be our #1 centre-back, even over the impressive Eric Bailly, and I think that has been emphasised by another weak performance from Daley Blind, who was so consistent throughout all of last season, and even at the beginning of this season. But since that City game, when he really got found out against some quality attackers, he's struggled. He got dropped for the Watford game, and then when he was brought back in today, he really struggled. He gave away the penalty, and for me, I think his time at centre-back is finally, mercifully, at an end here at Manchester United. Marcus Rojo, again, did a shift at left-back. If it was me, I would actually swap him and Blind over. I would rather see the much bigger, more physical Marcus Rojo playing alongside Smalling or Bailly, with Blind playing in the more peripheral role on the left-hand side, because he is a good ball player, and I've seen him put in good performances at left-back. So we'll see what Mourinho does with that. In terms of the formation, I very much like the 4-3-3. I'm glad that Jose Mourinho isn't being stubborn with the 4-2-3-1, because I do think that the shape, especially when Paul Pogba is in the team, doesn't really work. It definitely minimalises our threat in midfield and allows other teams like Manchester City to pass the ball around us when they're in form. So I think the shift to the 4-3-3, even in an experimental game like this one, is definitely important for the rest of our season. And that being said, let's look at the midfield performances, because that was where we really won the game. Michael Carrick, on his recall, absolutely superb. He shows why, even at 34 years old, with so much competition, he still earns a place in that first 3. He scored a wonderful goal, a really good first-time finish for him, and I was very impressed with the veteran's work today. Ander Herrera was probably my man of the match, once again put in a shift, and he has to get into the starting 11 for a Premier League game now. It's unacceptable that a man who works as hard as he does and plays as well and produces like he did today hasn't been getting a look in the first 11, really since that first season he moved here and scored several goals in a really good first campaign. Morgan Schneiderlin I thought was solid, but the big problem for him was how physical the game was today against Northampton. Now, every week in the Premier League, we're not going to have games like this. There's going to be games where Morgan Schneiderlin is going to be much less pressured by opposition midfielders. He's not going to get pushed around as much, but he got the lumps kicked out of him today, and I don't think that that's too much of a slight on him. I think he's just a smaller character, and he's definitely more equipped to play in games. I think in bigger games against teams like Man City, Arsenal, even Liverpool, teams that are going to try and play a different style of football. So Morgan Schneiderlin, even though you didn't play your best today, I'll write that up to the circumstances. It was good to see you get another shift in. I do think that's why Marouane Fellaini has been starting over him this season and last season. That physicality, he needs to improve that in his game, and maybe he's just not quite there yet. And as far as our front 3 went, it was very much a mixed bag. I think Ashley Young, a player who many people have been saying needs to be moved on, I completely disagree. He is a real utility player. He's almost like John O'Shea now. He plays right back, left back, right midfield, left midfield. He's even played up front under Louis van Gaal, and he's got a fantastic attitude for a 31-year-old player who knows he's not going to be in the first 11 at any point this season. He's taken his opportunities and he's shown character, and I do think Jose Mourinho is taking notice of that. Good on you, Ashley. looking elsewhere in that front three, Wayne Rooney is absolutely hopeless as the central striker today, and I think that could be another nail in the coffin for his career as far as starting every game for Manchester United. He looked rocky for the last few years, especially in the last few weeks, despite a reasonably good start to the season. And I have to say, having played in a Wednesday match, I'd be very surprised to see him play at lunchtime against Leicester. I could see him coming off the bench, and I do think he could be effective off the bench. But as far as starting, there are 11 better players at Manchester United right now than Wayne Rooney. And then you get to Memphis Depay, who is... he really breaks my heart, Memphis Depay, because he's such a talented footballer. He came in on such a wave of momentum, and in just a few short seasons, in 2 short seasons, it seems like all his confidence has been drained out of him. And you know, part of me wants to blame Van Gaal, but I feel like that's a bit unfair on him, because Van Gaal was the perfect manager for him to put his arm around him, and he gave him many opportunities last season, and he was just very off and on. He had great games in Europe against Bruges in the Champions League qualifiers, against PSV in the Champions League proper, and then even against Midtjylland in the Europa League. But he was poor in the Europa League against Feyenoord, and he was poor again against Northampton. And you have to ask, how many opportunities is he going to get? He's obviously showing Mourinho something in training to put him into the first 11, even for a team going out against a side like Northampton. But he didn't play well again today, and with players like Martial, Rashford, Ibrahimovic, Young even, starting to put pressure on him up there, you do wonder if he's going to be able to make an impression before Jose Mourinho decides that he's seen enough. So as far as the individual performances, it was definitely a mixed bag, but I think the formation worked and we got the victory. That was the vital part. We needed to stop the rot, and now we can go into the game against Leicester on Saturday knowing that that monkey is off our back. We are no longer in the consecutive defeat territory. Now obviously we have lost 2 Premier League games on the bounce, and we cannot afford to drop any more points. Not now, not in the next few weeks. We need to start getting back to winning ways quick, because City have not dropped the point yet. They haven't missed a beat. Everton are looking strong. Liverpool are looking strong. Spurs, Arsenal, Chelsea. There is far too much competition in this league for us to have a bad start. And yes, we've had a bad couple of games, but we did win our first 3. And if we can get back to winning ways this weekend against Leicester, I'm confident that we can get our title challenge back on track. It's still very early days, and Mourinho is showing signs of adaptability, which is very promising, because given the players that he's got, he definitely has to do a bit of work to find the best formation. It is a hodgepodge of several different managers as players. Many different managers have come through. You know, Moyes has signed a few of these players. Van Gaal signed a huge amount of these players, and Mourinho has signed 4 of these players. And getting them all to work in a team that still has veterans in it, like Rooney and Carrick, is a long process. And I think it's too much to ask. It's unfair to ask even of a manager like Jose Mourinho to get them working into a system this quickly. I do think the promise is there, and we've got great squad depth, and we've got the players to make something happen this year, and I do think it will happen. We just have to give it time. With that being said, my man of the match is Ander Herrera. I really think he played brilliantly today. Fantastic goal, hit the post with his left foot, and made a fantastic assist for the tenacious Marcus Rashford to score yet another goal for United. I think he needs to be in the starting 11, and if it was me, off the top of my head, my starting 11 for the game on Saturday: David De Gea in goal. Obviously he picks himself. Across the back, Valencia, Smalling, Bailly, and if obviously Luke Shaw sounds like he's injured, so if Luke Shaw is not fit, I would put Daley Blind at left back to keep him in the team, but to put him in a role where he is perhaps less culpable and less dependent in a defensive sense. He can definitely get forward a bit, and he can still play the ball through down the wings and find those passes that he is so very good at with the ball at his feet. And then you've got to keep this 4-3-3 going, because not only do I think it's best for the players we have, it is best for one specific player we have, and you know what I'm talking about. Paul Pogba would thrive in a 4-3-3. We know this because we've seen him do it. That is how he's made his living. That's why he was a £90 million player playing in this 4-3-3. If you stick Michael Carrick at the base of that 4-3-3 like he was tonight, mopping up, playing those Pirlo type passes, I know he's not quite at the level of Pirlo, but if Michael Carrick wasn't English, I think you would see a lot of people comparing him to some of these more continental style footballers. Have him playing with Herrera, the sort of tenacious box-to-box player who will get up and down and get stuck in, and give Pogba the freedom to go forward and really put himself about in a game, because that is where Pogba is world class, and we haven't seen it yet, and I don't think that's necessarily Pogba's fault. I think if you liberate Paul Pogba, you could even put Marouane Fellaini in there alongside him instead of Herrera. I would put Herrera in because I think he's earned that start, but I think you put Paul Pogba in and then you stick up front Rashford, Ibrahimovic and Martial, and you are looking at a deadly attacking force that can win any competition we're in this year. So I'm positive about the season, but I'm really antsy because I just want us to get back in the Premier League and get back to winning ways. Hopefully we'll do that this Saturday. If you have anything you want to say to me about this game or about anything related to Manchester United, stick it in the comments. Like the video if you enjoyed it, share it if you want to show your friends what I've got going on here. Thank you for watching, we'll see you on Saturday.